Hello, I'm Kyle Trebley, Superintendent of Speedway Schools, along with
John Dizney, Assistant Superintendent of Speedway Schools.
and we're here to inform you on some of our reentry plans for the 2020-2021 school year for Speedway Schools. First and most importantly, we have been approved by Dr. Kane and the Marion County Public Health Department that we will be going back to school on Wednesday, August 5th. Again, Wednesday, August 5th, we will be going back to school, and that's K through 12. As the days have gone by the last few weeks, a lot of things have changed. But one thing that we do know is that our safety plans have been approved, and by Dr. Kane late last week, we do have a waiver from number 9 on the health order 23-2020 that Speedway Schools will be able to come back to school K through 12. Because of our enrollment, our class sizes are small. Our overall enrollment is small. That allows us, with the enrollment of 1,800 versus other school districts that are quite large, that allows our school corporation to return. From the beginning, we've been looking and monitoring certain situations here, such as monitoring, cleaning, disinfection, and social distancing. Mr. Dizney at this time is going to talk about our self-monitoring and what that looks like for Speedway Schools.
We would ask all people that are attending our schools, whether it be students or staff, to self-screen or self-monitor before they come to school. And exactly what that means is they would ask themselves 3 questions before they come to school each day, and that is, have you had a fever in the last 72 hours? Have you had or do you have a respiratory illness in the last 72 hours? And the third question is, have you been exposed to anyone known to have COVID-19 that is COVID-19 positive in the past 14 days. If you've answered yes to any one of those 3 questions, then we'd ask you to contact your child's school, and we will give advice at that point what you should do.
At this time, we're going to take a look at some of our classrooms and facilities and go through the rest of the questions that you may have. But at any time, please, we want to inform you on what our reentry plans are. And if there are questions, please contact us.
One example of changes that we've made in our school day is how we're going to do the cafeteria. And as you can see, the high school cafeteria is set up a lot different than it normally would. And that is, we've spaced tables apart at least 6 feet so that students can social distance. Not only are they going to eat here, but they're going to eat in a wrestling room that is set up as a cafeteria in this building. At the junior high school, they're going to eat in the cafeteria and in the gymnasium that's also set up so they can social distance. In the elementary schools, it varies from elementary, but some cases students will be eating in classrooms. Some cases they'll be eating in the cafeteria. Instead of having 2 lunch periods, we may have 3 lunch periods in certain elementary schools. And the purpose of all this is so that we can meet the guidelines of social distancing and keeping our students apart from each other during lunchtime. During the lunchroom, they'll go through the line and they'll only get prepackaged type of food. The question has been asked of us, can you bring in food from home? And the answer to that is yes, you can bring in your food from home if you would like to. And we also, as we're speaking of that, our water bottles are acceptable in school. We tell students they cannot use our water fountains unless they are self-filling water bottle fountains. So we've turned off our regular fountains, and only the ones that are bottle filling are the ones that we ask students to use so that we limit the touch that's going to take place in those areas.
Along with just the cafeteria, our lockers, that's been a hot topic for us. We're going to stagger our passing periods so we can move kids around the hallways with social distancing, and our junior high and high school, that'll take effect into them. So the cafeteria, the hallways, the locker rooms, a lot of the common areas, we want to make sure that we can maximize our area, our occupancy, and our square footage for the students that we have. We are currently in a high school classroom. This is upstairs in Miss Owens' classroom. This is the English room. These rooms were built back in the 60s of 900 square foot. They were designed to have over 30 plus kids in a classroom. As you can see right now, the desks are spread out, and this is a very typical room, what you would see in the high school, to where we want to focus on spreading out kids with social distancing. is part one, and then part two is making sure that we understand disinfecting the rooms before the school day and after the school day.
If you'll notice in this room, we are social distancing in the classroom. The other thing you would notice is all the desks are facing in the same direction, which is the CDC and the Marion County Health Department's guidelines that all desks are facing in the same direction. So we've set up, this is a typical classroom that all classrooms in Speedway will look at like, so that we can practice social distancing in those classrooms. Each one of our classrooms at the end of the day will be cleaned, and after every period they will be wiped down, desks will be wiped down. One of the things that we're going to ask students to do is we're going to ask teachers and students, we're going to have assigned seats so that we know exactly where a student was sitting. And they use that for just in case we have someone that does test positive, we have what they call contact tracing, so that the same student will be in the same suit throughout the day. So we're going to clean the desk each day, each period, after every period. In the front of every classroom will be hand sanitizers, so students can use hand sanitizers when they enter the room or anytime they'd like to during the class period.
We're here in the wrestling room in the high school to where you can see our cafeteria phase 2, our part 2, that we also have our multiple desks aligned here in the room, along with social distancing facing the same direction over. This could be used for the cafeteria, or if we do have a larger class that we need to spread them out in some situations, we can optimize and utilize this throughout the day. So here's another example of another part of the building we haven't used for classrooms each and every day, and this will be utilized again because of the social distancing. We are now upstairs in Speedway Junior High School to where some procedures have changed with everything that is going on. For example, as our students will be traveling upstairs, downstairs, and up, we like to keep students spread apart. And for one way we're going to help and help remind students is that we have arrows, just like when you're driving down the road, students will stay on the right side when they're entering and leaving the classrooms. When they go to the lockers, again, like the high school, it will be a staggered to where not all students will be on top of each other at the lockers. So we're going to have a staggered delay for our lockers, and also in the hallways, students will be able, and they will be traveling on one side or the other. Also, the water fountains for this set will be shut off to where we'll only allow, and we'll show an example of this later, to the bottle fillers for students to use. Again, they can bring their water bottles, and we do have water bottle fillers for them during the school day.
Another routine that has changed in our schools is down the hallway here is one of our restrooms, and teachers have been trained that we're going to limit the amount of students that go into a restroom so we can't congregate in those areas. The idea of the hallway and the idea of the restroom is to keep students moving. So teachers will be helping with that at the high school and the junior high during passing periods to make sure that students aren't gathering in groups, that they keep moving as they go to their classroom, either on one side of the hallway or the other.
By no means am I a mask expert, but our masks are required in our school day for all K through 12 and staff members. They need to, again, cover the nose and the mouth, and as we go through this together, we'll figure out how to do that better each and every day. But that is a recommendation from Dr. Kane, Marion County Public Health Department, that masks are required. So that's one other thing that has changed over the last few months, but we want to make sure we reiterate that masks are required in all buildings.
The question has been asked of us is we're going to have any mask breaks throughout the day, and the answer to that question is yes, we will. We will have opportunities for students to take their mask off for a couple of seconds or for very short periods of time and then put their mask back on. But the questions come to us, do they ever take their mask off? And the answer is we will provide mask breaks. Elementary schools, they'll try to get outside more often than normal. Back to the restroom situation, also, we're going to teach kids in the elementary schools, we're teaching them how to social distance. We're teaching them how to read and write and add and subtract. But a great time for us is to teach them what social distancing means, how to stay apart from each other. Elementary kids, we've been talking about arm's distance away. 2 arms distance is about 6 feet. We also are going to talk to them about washing their hands and how important that is. nothing has changed as far as how to protect yourself since this thing began, and that is wear a mask, social distance, and wash your hands as much as possible, as often as possible. So we're going to be talking to kids about how you wash your hands and how you can keep yourself from getting this disease.
We are currently in Fisher Elementary in an elementary classroom, and as you can see, typically in K through 6, we have desks that are in blocks and kind of like blobs and stations. Currently, we have them all spread out, and this is just a good presentation of, because we have small class sizes, we're able to utilize our space, spread them out where they all have their individual desks. Now before, we would use something such as a kidney table and do a lot of small group instruction. So that's one change of instruction that we'll be doing, and it's going to be hard for our teachers and for our students as we believe in small group instruction, but we're going to be moving from that to where we'll do a little more spread out, which we will be doing spread out, as you can see throughout the classrooms with the teacher in front. So this is a small example of an elementary classroom. With that instruction, I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Dizney and talk about some of the differences we'll be having from last year's spring to this year in our e-learning.
Parents have the opportunity right now to choose whether they want their child to come to school in the brick and mortar school or they want to choose e-learning. I want to say something about e-learning, and that is last March when this thing first happened, the next day we were placed into a very quick change of what we normally do. Our teachers are taught how to manage classrooms, how to present instruction, how to assess students, and all of a sudden overnight that changed. I think you have to keep that in mind. Our teachers have to change the way they delivered instruction, and now they're learning how to be e-learners. So our e-learning opportunity that took place last spring and what's going to take place this fall is much different, much more robust. But keep in mind that it will probably never match what's going on in the classroom. So if you chose that you want to do an e-learning opportunity, you can. And we have teachers at our elementary level that's going to help with our students. We're going to be giving Chromebooks to students that are in need of those. Teach them how to log on to Google Classroom. Teach them how to communicate with their teacher through Google Classroom and through a product called Google Meets so they can see their teacher teach a lesson. So each day they'll see a pre-recorded lesson in language arts or math, and then they'll have an individual time to meet with teachers in small groups. Just like you would be in a classroom, we're going to try to mimic as much as we can during a classroom. 3 or 4 days a week, they'll be having science and social studies lessons. So it will be much more robust than what they had last spring. One of the things you need to understand if you're choosing the e-learning model is last spring it was if you did it, that's okay, and if you didn't do it, we understood that. That changes this year. This year, attendance will be taken every day. We expect our students that choose the e-learning model to log on every day, to get in their classrooms just like they would be if they were attending the brick and mortar. Understanding that we're here to help you. We're here to help you if you choose the e-learning model. We are learning the process along with everybody else, with all the students and the parents, but we will help you through that process, and hopefully one of these days we'll all be back to the brick and mortar type of learning. One of the questions we were asked was if a student were in the brick and mortar situation and they were to test positive, what happens with the e-learning? What we will try to do with that is we'll try to do packets of information like we would in a normal absence, but if that's an extended absence, that student will be able to go on to e-learning and see the e-learning classrooms that are taking place each day. One of the things you want to keep in mind, though, for us to keep some kind of continuity of learning, going back from e-learning to classroom to e-learning, the more times you do that, the harder it will be to keep the continuing of learning taking place. So if a person does test positive, they can move over to e-learning for a short period of time, watching the teachers in the pre-recorded lessons, then hopefully get back into the brick and mortar type of classroom.
Behind me right now is a water bottle filler that we have multiple bottle fillers in all of our buildings. We're currently here in the junior high, but there's multiple ones located on the first floor, In the high school, we have 2 upstairs. We're getting the second one, and there's multiple ones downstairs, and each elementary has bottle fillers also. A question is, what type of bottles can you bring? Well, the answer to that is right now we are accepting any bottles. Once we get underneath the bottle filler, we ask that they don't put the lid next to it, but it's been approved by the Marion County Health Department, so we'll continue that practice. If a student becomes infected with COVID-19, we'll be notified by either the parent, the doctor, Marion County Health Department, or the state health department. At that time, the school corporation, along with that group, will have a conversation and make decisions on who needs to be contacted and who needs to be notified at that time. A lot of information needs to be taken if we do have a positive case. Throughout that process, there'll have to be information about the students, and that's why it's so important that we know who's at school, who sits next to what student, so we can do a contact trace. This is very fluid, but just to let you know, if somebody in a classroom or in the school becomes positive with COVID-19, we would get the advice from the Marion County Health Department and then contact the people who they suggest that we should at that time. So again, it's a very fluid process, but it's a lot of investigating that we'd have to do before we can make that determination on exactly who gets and who does not get notified for that.
If your child is experiencing signs and symptoms that you think could be COVID, by all means, keep them home. Call us at school, let us know what's going on. The rule of thumb is they go 72 hours without fever, then send them back to school. But you got to know those kind of situations as a parent. We do not have a policy that says you have to keep them home, you have to do this. The guidelines have been, if you're having signs and symptoms of, keep them home for 72 hours, and when they're symptom free, that you can send them back to school. We understand this. We're working with you on this. Dr. Trebley said, he would make his kids go to school. I would do the same thing. You're not feeling very good, get up and go to school. We still want students at school every day, but we're in a different time. We understand if you have doubts, keep them home. Keep them home. That would be my suggestion to you. Get a hold of us at school, let us know that. So that we can help you through this process.
We are a small school corporation. We are different than everybody else, and we just want to tell you, John and I want to tell you, that as we live here, we have our own kids, we understand, we want you to know we're here and we're doing this together. Please, 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 if you have any questions or any doubts, contact your building administrator, the principal, contact central office. We'll get a call back to you, but we want to work with you. We want to make sure that you feel like you're sending your child to a safe place, and we want that too. Always, we care about the safety of our students and having an effective learning environment, and we believe that hopefully on Wednesday, August 5th, we'll start school again for Speedway Schools, and we'll have both of those things. If you're doing an e-learning option, we understand that too. We're going to do the best we can to give that rigorous instruction to you, and we look forward to working with you.
If you should have questions as we go through this process, like we said, we're not doing this to you, we're doing this with you. So if you have questions during this process, by all means, give us a call. Call us at the central office, call your building level principal so that we can help you during this time.
If anything changes, any information changes, we will contact parents by our website, and number 2, our school messenger, for example, for when we close school. But those are our 2 official sources that we inform people. Again, that's our website will be updated along with our school messenger for any changes that could change at any moment. So it is a very fluid situation, but we want to make sure that we communicate the most current and up-to-date information to you.